And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mr. Kasarian, and as you can see, we are preparing to launch a brand new probe. This is going to be a magnetic survey probe, actually, that is going to map Minmus, actually. Minmus, right? Minmus? Or the Mun. We'll go for Minmus first. Okay, so the first thing we will do is we have a hydraulic detachment manifold to test, so I think it's, yeah, okay. Blow that off the side. We should get a contract complete notification. Thank you very much. Okay. So we're just going to take this thing into orbit, as is always normal 100-kilometer standard orbit awaiting liftoff. So I will see you guys once we get up there, because, well, you guys don't really need to watch the launch now, do ya? Alright, I'll be right back. Well, actually, you know what? Let's see this launch on fast forward. Not that it's going to be much other than just a MechJeb launch. So, see you in orbit. Alright guys, another pretty basic mission for everyone here. Just completing up some data. And we had a contract to test that decoupler, so that was pretty darn simple. This thing is just a scan probe that's going up to the Minmus. And just to complete a contract to gather some data on the magnetosphere around Minmus. Not too bad. So basically this thing's going to go up into space. For some reason, MechJeb has some difficulty controlling this thing on launch. I'm not entirely sure why, but it just does not seem to like... Yeah, see, it ends up going straight up. It can't really turn it. Yeah, and it gets into orbit, but it's not a pretty launch. Not what I'm expecting for computer-controlled guidance launch. So we're just going to pop our fairing now. You can see the payload inside there. And we're going to start, just do a quick scan with our RPWS, transmit, and collapse that thing back in for us. Not too shabby. This is a pretty basic mission. Pretty easy. Just get it into orbit, get it into the proper orbit, and collect some science. And then the rest of the mission is to leave it there for, I believe, 150 days. Now, I'm not going to be dealing with kind of screwing around with all the, like, just time warping it there, because I don't want to run up the epoch clock if I don't have to. So I'm just going to let it go. And that should be plenty fine for everything that we're doing. I don't think we really need to, you know, oh my gosh, quick, get this mission done in real time. Because, you know, and we have some time. We don't have to scramble to get that done. It's not like we can't do anything else until that mission's complete. So yeah, we're just going to let that go. And phantom light sources, as are usual in this game. Hey. You can see we have plenty of fuel. Just going to monitor Minmus. So all we're going to do is just the pretty basic, you know, get our maneuver manager out. Our node deselected again. Create the node. Execute the node. And then we're just going to do a transfer out. We had some issue here because it kind of did something strange. And it edited the node that I was currently burning on. See how it just did that there? And I got very confused by it. And I ended up aborting the node transfer and just redoing this. And it worked out great. It worked out perfectly fine. And I'm not certain why it did something very strange with that initial burn, but it did. And your guess is as good as mine why it decided to do that. I seriously have no idea. It usually doesn't. Usually it doesn't have that behavior, but this time it did. I don't know. I don't understand at all. So we're just going to travel out there, or we're going to travel to our burn location. And yeah, that's going to be pretty darn basic. Now, I hadn't remembered what else I had on this flight, which is why I gave it the antenna there, or the orbital telescope. I figured, you know, better safe than sorry. Might as well just give it an orbital telescope, call it a good day. Nice little eclipse there. I actually did not see that when I was playing. I was actually sitting at the computer screen when I was doing this, but I didn't even notice that. So we're just going to burn out there, clear some messages, nothing too major. And I actually did another mission. I had 2 contracts like this, one to Minmus and one to the Mun. And I just did both of them. I did the second one off camera for you guys because no reason for you guys to see that. It was exactly the same probe, exactly the same mission. It just has to stay in orbit for a little bit longer. All right. So I just decided, you know what? They don't need to be bothered by watching that. That's just faffing about. So, yep, we're just going to go out to the Mun. Pretty basic and standard. Nothing too major. Just dealing with trying to circularize my orbit when I get out there. I end up switching over to mode 1. Mode 0, excuse me, for node editing. That way I can actually see. It shows the orbital trajectory around the actual planet, which you guys are still obviously seeing right now, so you know what I mean, rather than showing it where the planet will be. I prefer this for like orbital, dealing with orbits like this one. It doesn't work quite as well for some things. You can see it's kind of weird. And in this case, it actually completely almost screws me up. But we managed to deal with it without too much difficulty. I had an RPWS scan that I didn't even pay attention to. Bah. And you're going to see what happens here. So we're going to come up on the node. We're going to burn, and it's actually going to overburn. And it's going to try and flip our orbit all the way around. See that? Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out right now myself, and I'm just like, that doesn't look right. Something looks wrong there, computer. Yeah, see what it does? It does that. So I scrub the orbit, and I just add maneuver, burn it back out a little bit. Yeah, I wasted some delta V doing it, but that's neither here nor there. And I should have just left it with a wicked eccentric orbit and then just done the adjust for my inclination. But I really wasn't paying attention at that point. So we're going to transmit some data. You can see I got a science reward from that. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. And I also make a mistake here where I'm looking at the contract for the Mun, which is the one I did off camera, instead of looking at the one for Minmus, which is where I actually am sitting. Oops. Yeah, you'll see. I'll figure that out in a couple seconds here. So first thing I have to do is get my orbital eccentricity up. But once I figure that out, it's not too big of a deal, and I get it settled out pretty darn quickly. So you guys can just see I'm getting my eccentricity done, and I will be right back. All right, so let's take a look at this. We are time warping in. And let's see, just doing our adjustment. Nice and quickly. And we're just checking. You can see here I'm looking at the wrong set of mission criteria. Or no, I wasn't. I just had it set wrong. And luckily enough for us, we actually managed to get ourselves onto a course change that doesn't take too long to execute. Well, of course, it never takes too long to execute because, you know, time warp is time warp. But, you know, it's still nice if the mission itself in real time doesn't take me, 6 hours to record. Yeah. By the way, let me know, guys, how you like this. There we go. I'm looking at the wrong one. Let me know how you like the post-record versus the during record, the live record. Because it's a little bit more difficult for me, but I think it lends itself to a better video for you guys. All right, so we're just adjusting for eccentricity there. We have to have a certain eccentricity number we have to reach. I think it has to be higher than 0.3. So eccentricity is I believe it's the ratio between your apoaps and periaps. The closer it is to 0, actually. So it can't be the ratio. The closer it is to 0, oh yeah, that's the one that's flying off into deep space. The closer it is to 0, the more even your orbit is, the more circular your orbit is. Of course, orbits aren't really circular usually. But anyways, so this thing, we are adjusted. There we go. And look at that. Now we have to wait about 140 days. Nah, 140 days. Excuse me. So what we're going to do is we're just going to set some alarms. We're going to gather the last of the science that we need. And I believe the rest of this recording... no, we have one more cut. But we're going to go back in a minute or two to live and active me instead of not live and somewhat silly me. Blargle, blargle, blargle. See? Silly me. Look at that. Looks kind of pretty, though, doesn't it? We're just going to transmit that data and complete the mission. So in a couple seconds, we'll drop back to the live version of me, and we'll get on with the video. Service module. Big tank module. Some nice big tanks in here. Along with some extra docking ports, which will allow us to expand the station a little bit if we want to. I'm not certain we really do yet, but, you know, it's still useful to have. This extra docking module, well, it's a little tightly spaced for something like this lander, but it should allow us to quite a bit more work in here. So, yes, I am quite pleased with this so far. Let's bump you out on EVA, shall we, buddy? Which, of course, means the station's right now not really controlled. You can see the booster over there that I used to get up here. Let's see if we can't find... Let's get this little lamp on there. Of course, moving around this thing is a bit of a challenge. Ah, there we go. Close you back up, shall we? Ah, that's the materials bay right there. Collect the data. This is not a bad little station, actually. And let's jump down a little bit. Come on, grab. And then board. Oh. Alright, we already have that stored, so dump the experiment. But anyways, that actually worked out pretty well, and it also actually allows us, believe it or not, to clean the experiments that are in there too. There we go, just cleaned it out, so that is ready to use. And we can transfer all the science from here back into this little lander and continue on with our mission. So, I will be back in a few minutes maybe, or... I think we'll probably end the episode here, actually. Shall we? No, yeah, we'll see. I'll record a little bit more. Alright, so let's go back to the Space Center, and I will be back once we're... Alright, guys, so we have another mission going up today. It is going to be a not rescue, but a resupply and recovery mission for our launcher up near... Where is that planet? What system is that? Up near the Mun. That is right, the Mun. So this vehicle is going to go up. It's a pretty standard booster, actually. It's a Hercules booster, slightly shortened just to give it some better flight characteristics for this mission. Not much is actually involved in it. It's basically just a resupply pod, a crew can with one of our Kerbonauts who's yet to complete a mission, combined with some other support and supply stuff, just some lifelines and not much else. It's basically just a quite quick, easy, simple, and pretty much, well, painless getting up there mission. A lot of this is mech jump flown. The entire point of this, though, is I think this thing only costs me about 76,000 Kerbo credits, whatever they're called, funds. 76,000 funds. I'm going to call them Kerbo dollars. because it sounds like petrodollars. Petrodollars are actually really interesting. There was a movement a while ago to try and replace the dollar as the standard currency in the world. And I forget who started the movement, actually. I think it was Iran, maybe, or China. I don't exactly recall. It might have been Iran and Venezuela. It was during the Bush administration. I remember that much of it. It didn't really take off. But the entire idea was that it would be bound to the price of oil. Let's see if I can find some info on it for you guys, because it's kind of interesting. Petrodollar. Here we go. Petrodollar. Petrocurrency. There we go. Let's see. Yeah, I can't find anything on it. I may be using the wrong term for it. That may be why. So, basically, I think it was Venezuela wanted to start a movement to try and replace the dollar as the world trade currency, and basically fix the price of the exchange rate of this currency to the price of oil for each country. It didn't take off. Generally, when you try and implement a currency like that for international trade, it doesn't tend to work out that well, mostly because everyone kind of has their own crap they want to do. All right, so we are doing our transfer orbit. There we go. Bunch of MechJeb windows cluttering up my screen. Yeah, I'm letting MechJeb do most of this. You guys have seen me do this 1,000,005,000 times. The return trip actually gets a little hair-raising, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So, as you can see, the design's fairly simple. Pretty basic design. In terms of that middle stage, that's just using a Vesta twin nozzle booster, twin nozzle rocket. Nothing fancy. The upper stage is using one of the hypergolic RCS fueled primary boosters, which you guys will see in just a couple seconds here as I start this burn. Overall, it was a pretty successful design. I was actually very happy with it. I didn't... RCS balance in MechJeb kind of does some interesting things, but we'll see what it's doing when it gets there. It works fine. The only issue I had was it turns out the station started one of those random Kerbal space program, I don't know why it happens, spins on me. So, whatever. But yeah, we're about to run out of fuel in that stage. We're going to ditch it in a couple seconds. And we fire the RCS, the hypergolic service propulsion system. Made to, of course, look like the service propulsion system that was on the Apollo mission, actually. Not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. Okay, so we're just tweaking our orbit a little bit so we don't... okay, we're circularizing. There we go. I'm sorry, I have this tiny little preview window I'm looking at, so it's kind of a hit or miss whether I can actually tell what's going on in the window. And by the way, the numbers are completely illegible to me. So there we go. We are on our way. I've folded out the solar panels and opened up the shield, which is probably a good thing for my sake. Yes. Yes, very good indeed for my sake. So we're coming into lunar orbit, coming up on our circularization burn. We have some minor issues with it because MechJeb, yeah, it kind of just blew right past the burn. No, it didn't. It came close to it, but didn't. You're going to see here it's going to overshoot that burn again just because of the angle and how things are working. Yeah, see that? I'm just like, okay, yep, that's good enough, MechJeb. That's plenty good enough. So I didn't even try and go in for a from transfer close approach with the target. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm setting myself up in a much lower or higher orbit, in this case lower, because what that means is that you're traveling faster. Well, okay, let's rephrase this. You're traveling slower relative to the planet. All right, your orbital speed is slower the lower you are. Your orbital energy. Your angular velocity is higher. So you're going to travel around, each orbit will be faster, basically. So you're traveling a higher number of degrees in your orbit at a time. So by putting myself in a much lower orbit, I don't have to go that long before I get a transfer window to do a Hohmann transfer up into that orbit. So I think MechJeb told me I had to do 0.22 orbits, so about a fifth of an orbit to get a good cat transfer. We're just doing some plane adjust, I believe. Now we're going to flip her over and accelerate through quite nicely. And there's going to be a little bit of faffing about with MechJeb, and this part of the mission actually goes pretty much without a hitch, except for the station spin, which I find, which causes MechJeb to do some really, really interesting things, by the way. It really doesn't like when crap's spinning. Yeah, when its target's spinning, it gets really confused and just kind of gives up and flails madly about and gets really kind of wibbly about it. I'm highlighting something with my mouse there, but I'm not certain what I'm highlighting. Oh, there we go. I was making sure the game hadn't crashed, actually. There we go. We have our target there. I just wanted to get rid of that docking align UI because I'm using MechJeb for this. So we're just going to match velocities. We're a little bit far away from the station right now, but that's neither here nor there. The docking operation, you guys can actually probably see right now that it has a bit of a spin to it. So MechJeb's going to get really confused in a couple seconds. As soon as I turn on the docking control, it's going to just go, what? What are you trying to do, buddy? All right, so we're burning in towards the target, just doing our final approach. And I set MechJeb kind of low for the approach on this, just because it usually overshoots the initial approach a little bit. So I find that if I set it to about 80, it gets me relatively close. Now I'm just going to select the docking port. There we go. And in a second, okay, yeah. This is me deciding, you know what, forget it. I'm not going to... There we go. I just decided, you know what, forget it. I'm just going to go in and engage my docking control, the docking autopilot now, because, well, yeah, and now you can see it's really starting to spin, and MechJeb's going to get really bloody confused. Let's reselect that. There we go. We're engaged. MechJeb's getting even more confused. You'll notice it'll just start spinning because the way MechJeb works is it lines itself up and then it does the dock. So here it's just it can't get itself aligned because the target is looping and spinning. I think its RCS balancer maybe is doing something weird, which sometimes RCS balancer gets a little creative with me. And then I realized that no, the station's spinning. That's the problem. Should realize that in a couple seconds here. Stare at the computer going, wait, what is going on now? Why is it doing this? Why is it spin? Oh, right. And all I have to do is just switch back over. SAS engages. Slows the thing down. You can see we're coming in kind of fast over here. And I just want to make sure that the docking control is actually set properly. So that's a bit of screwing around, making sure my target's reselected, getting control back, re-engaging docking control. And then after that, it's a pretty standard docking sequence, computer controlled docking, which is how almost all docking in space is actually done. Astronauts don't do a lot. Astronauts are kind of along for the ride, and they do experiments. That's basically it. And maybe some EVA. But there's a lot of stuff coming out now that will actually kind of, I wouldn't say get rid of the need for EVA, but it'll significantly reduce the need for EVA. There are some robots now and sort of the applications from telesurgery, actually, and the Da Vinci system and telesurgery that are being, turned around and kind of applied over to what we do in space because virtual reality. Now, I mean, the issue always becomes, communications lag, which is not something we have to deal with in this install of Kerbal Space Program because I didn't install remote tech. I didn't want to screw around with it, basically. If I wanted to, I could have, but I just didn't really want to deal with it, in essence. It adds another layer of complexity, yes, but I've watched enough YouTubers who've had to end series and really put a lot of time into their series because remote tech decided to be a pain in the rear end. Maybe in the next season. I also haven't been doing much with probes. I actually haven't been moving that quickly, to be honest with you guys. And I'm kind of trying to do this stuff in kind of cool ways and cool approaches. And I actually think I'm not at my computer when I'm doing this. I think I'm actually, I think I had just started putting my suit on for work, actually, and left this thing just to do it. So I'm sorry if it's not a great angle for the docking, but I actually think it's kind of cool. You can see the two spaceships here come in and to dock with each other. Of course, this is all happening at a highly accelerated. I think it's like 4 times speed on my computer right now, at least on the recording. Because this was about a 30-minute mission, so I decided to speed it up and then just post-edit it for you guys. And we're going to come in, docking fairly soon. I can't see the numbers, so I can't tell you how close. Oh, yeah, there we go. Game lag. And we are docked. Beautiful. And I think I am still... Oh, nope, there we go. I just came back. That's right, because I was looking over and I just saw that it docked. So all we're going to do now is we're just going to use the vessel manifest to transfer the science over. Boom. And screen clutter. Pretty darn simple. Okay. So now let's disconnect this baby. I'm just seeing if I want to transfer anything. I decide I don't. So we're just going to decouple that. Swap back over. Get RCS turned on. And that's where we start having issues with RCS balancer. For some reason, it didn't want to let me reverse out of the situation, so it was just being a pain in the rear end. And we're just going to shift clear. That is a beauty shot right there. Nice. Nice little beauty shot. And let's see. Well, we're going to create this maneuver node, but I'm going to give up on it and just freehand this because... yeah, it would be nice, but you guys are going to see in a couple seconds that it's just going to go sideways on me. I'm already past it. So I might... yeah, I can't do anything to it now because I'm already past the maneuver node. So I'm just going to line up and start my burn manually. Now, this is where the mission starts to go sideways because Kerbal Space Program. All right? This is literally one of those because Kerbal's decided no. So just squishing that in a little bit. Just reducing that a wee bit. And there we go. Okay, and there we have an issue. I have to fix it by jumping back to the Space Center. If you notice there, that brief cut, we just had a problem with the game deciding that it was going to remove my docking control and just about everything else that was on my screen, which is not fun or enjoyable for me. Trust me, not fun or enjoyable at all. So we're going to jump back. Now, this is where things get hairy because Kerbal Space Program. Basically, what ends up happening is I'm skipping through the atmosphere, whoosh, and I have to do kind of an emergency burn, but I end up getting planet side without difficulty, and sorry about that if that paused for a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stop this here. You guys can see we're going to come back. I'm going to burn here. But you guys don't really need to see that. So I will see you guys ground side. All right, guys, we got a fair bit of science to unlock, so let's take a look at what we're doing. All right, that was a bit of a hair-raising mission now, wasn't it? So I can unlock 2 of these nodes, or I can unlock 1 of these nodes. Now this will give me the rapiers, which I am so looking forward to. But, yeah, exactly, but, do I want Ion or the Rapier? The Rapier is going to be better for supporting some of my short-term endeavors. That's the main thing I'm worried about here. At the same time, I could also get the inline refineries. the refineries, which would also be wicked cool. Decisions, right? I mean, and there's that thing up there. Decisions. Well, I'm going to need power plants no matter what I'm doing, and large electric seems like a decent idea to me. Especially... Ooh, that gets me that. Ooh. Yeah, I'm going to need electrics to do that, though. Let's unlock electrics. And then we have another 300, so we can't quite get that. But I'd love to get hypersonic flight. So then, let's get... Yeah, let's get ion propulsion and large electrics. And then we'll have more sets going up, so that's not going to be a huge deal, because those resupply missions are not expensive. That entire rocket's pretty darn cheap. So anyways, guys, this has been Mr. Kassarian. I want to thank you all for watching, and as always, happy flying.